Certainly, we live in a very unique and special world, you know. A world filled with life of all sizes, shapes, and colors. We have many birds in the sky, animals on and beneath the earth, and creatures from the depths of the ocean that amaze us with their unique ways of surviving. But while it's fair to say that we know many of the animals that roam our world, there are plenty that are quite rare. And when we do discover them, we try to take photos and videos to prove that they really exist. With all that in mind, here are the 18 rarest animals ever caught on video. But before we begin, make sure to subscribe to our channel and leave your like. Now let's get started. Number 1. Birds of Paradise. I'm starting with a generalization because this is an entire family of birds, the birds of paradise. Specifically, this group of birds can be found in places like eastern Indonesia, Papua New Guinea, and eastern Australia. There are 45 species in this group or family, and many of them are threatened in terms of population status. The threats to these birds are consistent, which is why we're grouping them all together. First, they were hunted for their beautiful feathers, which were used in clothing around the world. And second, their habitats were destroyed by deforestation, which further reduced their population numbers. The fact that this is happening across multiple countries makes it even more concerning, as it could impact and wipe out several bird species in a single stroke. Number 2. The fossa. It's almost ironic that I haven't talked more about Madagascar yet, given how much life exists on that island and how constantly threatened it is. But in this case, I'm talking about its top predator, the fossa. What's a fossa, you might ask? They are relatives of mongooses and are creatures that love to hunt Madagascar's main star, the lemur. So yes, they would probably take out King Julian if you asked them to. But here's the problem. Despite being the island's main predator, they are very hard to find. Scientists honestly don't know much about them and therefore don't know their population numbers. That's a big issue because they need to be tracked and recorded in order to estimate how they're doing, or more realistically, how badly they're doing. Number 3, the spotted handfish. Among the countless animals that inhabit our planet, some stand out for their beauty, others for their impressive size, and some simply for the strangeness of their appearance or behavior. The spotted handfish, Brachyonyctus hirsutus, belongs to this last group, a creature so peculiar it looks like it stepped out of a surrealist painting. Despite its curious name, it is not a fictional being. It exists, but unfortunately it is critically endangered, a creature like no other. What makes the spotted handfish so special is its way of moving. Instead of swimming like most fish, it uses its pectoral and pelvic fins as if they were tiny hands, walking along the seabed. This unique adaptation gives it its popular name and makes it look at first sight more like a hybrid creature, half fish, half amphibian than a typical ocean dweller. Its body is compact with colors that range from yellowish and brown to reddish tones, often with spots or stripes that serve as perfect camouflage against sandy or rocky bottoms. It isn't a fast swimmer, nor does it need to be. Its survival strategy has always relied on discretion and patience. An extremely restricted habitat. The spotted handfish has one of the most specific and limited habitats of any known marine species. It lives only in coastal areas of Tasmania, Australia, on sandy or algae-covered bottoms, and always within a very narrow depth range. This dependence on such a specific environment is one of its greatest vulnerabilities. While other species can migrate, adapt, or seek out new territories in response to environmental changes, the spotted handfish doesn't have that flexibility. It doesn't swim long distances and rarely leaves the area where it was born. This extreme territorial fidelity has made its geographic distribution incredibly restricted, reducing it to small, isolated populations. The threat of human expansion. As Tasmania's coast began to suffer from human expansion, the spotted handfish's situation worsened. Pollution, boat traffic, coastal deforestation, and even accidental bycatch directly impacted its delicate ecosystem. Sediments dumped into the sea clouded the water, destroying marine vegetation that provided shelter. Chemicals degraded water quality and reduced prey availability. But perhaps the harshest blow came with the introduction of non-native predators, such as perch. With little mobility and unable to flee quickly, the spotted handfish became an easy target, a population at risk. What's most alarming is that this species is endemic. It exists in only one place on Earth. That means any negative impact on its population affects the entire species. There are no alternative refugees, no second chances elsewhere, and that's exactly what happened. Over the last few decades, a dramatic population collapse was observed. Today, the spotted handfish is classified as critically endangered by the International Union for Conservation of Nature, IUCN. It is estimated that its wild population has dwindled to just a few thousand individuals, and in some areas, perhaps only hundreds. In other words, it is on the brink of vanishing forever. Why is it so important? At first glance, it might seem like just another strange fish at risk, but the spotted handfish has enormous scientific and ecological value. Unique evolution, its method of locomotion, represents a rare example of how fish can develop radical adaptations to survive in specific niches. Environmental indicator, the health of its population serves as a thermometer to assess the environmental quality of Tasmania's coastal waters. Biodiversity. The loss of such a specialized species would not only reduce the number of fish, but erase millions of years of evolutionary history. Conservation efforts. Fortunately, in recent years, the species has begun receiving attention. Conservation projects led by Australian universities and environmental organizations aim to create captive populations, study their reproductive habits, and, when possible, reintroduce them into protected areas. In addition, local efforts seek to control invasive predators, reduce coastal pollution, and protect remaining habitats. However, these programs require time, funding, and, most importantly, public awareness to ensure they are not abandoned before showing results. The paradox of the spotted handfish. What's most striking in this case is the paradox, the very characteristic that makes the spotted handfish fascinating. Its restricted way of life, adapted to such a specific habitat, is also its doom. It is a reminder that, in nature's delicate balance, extreme specialization can be a double-edged sword. While some species thrive precisely because they are adaptable, the spotted handfish finds itself trapped in the cruel fate that its very uniqueness may lead it to extinction. Final reflection. When we observe creatures like the spotted handfish, we should reflect on the impact of human actions. This small animal, which walks along the seabed with fins turned into hands, is a living metaphor for how life can take on astonishing forms. Yet it is also a warning of how we may be responsible for destroying what we barely begin to understand. If it disappears, we won't just lose a species, we will lose a piece of life's history on Earth. A chapter written over millions of years, erased in just a few decades by human negligence. Number 4. The long-beaked echidna, the living fossil that came back from extinction. Few stories in biology can bring together mystery, science, hope, and emotion quite like that of the long-beaked echidna, Zyglossys attenboroi, and related species of the same genus. For decades, it was believed that this peculiar animal had disappeared forever, a being that, like a ghost, lived more in scientific memory and old records than in the forests and mountains of the real world, until November 2023, when an expedition organized by the University of Oxford achieved what had once seemed impossible, capturing on video one of the rarest and most discreet animals on the planet. This rediscovery was like opening a window into Earth's deep past. The long-beaked echidna is not just an exotic mammal, it is a survivor from another era, one of the last representatives of a lineage so ancient that it stretches back millions of years to a time when the continents were in different positions and the first mammals were only beginning to diversify. In this section, we will explore in depth all aspects of this extraordinary creature, its biology, its evolution, its near disappearance, the impact of its rediscovery, its cultural and ecological role, and even the philosophical reflections that a living fossil awakens in humanity. Get ready for a long, detailed, and fascinating journey, because the long-beaked echidna deserves more than a footnote in history. It deserves to be celebrated as a symbol of life's resilience. The timeline of life. Who are the monotremes? Before talking specifically about the long-beaked echidna, we need to understand where it fits in the tree of life. Modern mammals are divided into 3 major groups: placentals, like us humans and most mammals today. In these, the offspring develops inside the womb, connected to the mother through a placenta. Marsupials, like kangaroos and koalas, where the young are born very early and continue developing in a pouch. Monotremes, the most primitive and peculiar group, composed only of platypuses and echidnas. Monotremes have one unique characteristic: they lay eggs. Imagine that, a mammal with fur, warm blood, and mammary glands that produce milk. and yet, with the reproductive strategy of birds and reptiles. It's a true biological paradox, a reminder that evolution doesn't always follow a straight line. It is believed that monotremes split from other mammals more than 160 million years ago, during the Jurassic period, which means that while giant dinosaurs roamed the earth, the ancestors of the echidna were already exploring hidden niches, living in burrows, hunting insects, laying eggs, and caring for their young in a primitive way. When we think about this, we realize looking at an echidna is like gazing through a window into the Jurassic. The long beak and the spiny body, anatomy of survival. The long-beaked echidna differs from its better-known cousin, the short-beaked echidna of Australia, in several ways. Its body is more robust, it can weigh over 10 kilos, and its snout, popularly called a beak, is elongated, adapted for digging and reaching insects hidden in logs and soil. But this beak is not just an elongated nose. It contains electroreceptors similar to those of the platypus. This means the echidna can detect electrical impulses emitted by the muscles and nerves of its prey. For us humans, that's almost unimaginable, like having a built-in biological sixth sense right on our face. Its body is covered by a mix of coarse fur and sharp spines, which serve as defense against predators. When threatened, the echidna curls up partially, exposing its spines and becoming an unappealing meal. Another curious fact, unlike most mammals, echidnas have no teeth. Instead, they use a long, sticky tongue that can shoot out quickly to capture insects, worms, and larvae. It's an adaptation similar to anteaters, though very distant in evolutionary terms. Behavior, the ghost of the forest. The long-beaked echidna is extremely shy and nocturnal. It avoids confrontations, is rarely seen in open areas, and spends much of its time digging. Its metabolism is slow, making it a discreet mover. This lifestyle explains why it remained unrecorded for so long. Even in areas where it survives, it can go unnoticed for years. Biologist James Kempton, leader of the Oxford expedition, commented that it was like looking for a needle in a haystack of rainforest. Its diet consists mainly of insects, worms, and other invertebrates. But its ecological importance goes further. By digging the soil, the echidna helps aerate the ground, spread seeds, and control insect populations, acting as an invisible ecological engineer. The extinction enigma. For a long time, it was believed that the long-beaked echidna had already disappeared. The last reliable reports dated back to the early 20th century, and environmental destruction in parts of Indonesia led scientists to conclude there was no chance of survival. The problem was that the species was always naturally rare and difficult to observe. The absence of records didn't necessarily mean extinction, but in science, lack of evidence carries weight, so for decades, the long-beaked echidna was listed as critically endangered, possibly extinct. This classification turned it into an almost mythological species, mentioned in articles and books, but rarely seen, until the turning point of 2023, the 2023 rediscovery, an expedition for the history books. In November 2023, an international team of scientists led by the University of Oxford conducted an expedition in Indonesia, in a remote region of mountains covered by dense forests. The initial goal was to study biodiversity in general, but there was always a secret hope: to find signs of the echidna, and the improbable happened. 4 short clips, each about 3 seconds long, captured the long-beaked echidna alive. The footage clearly showed the animal moving, confirming what once seemed impossible. The news spread worldwide. For the scientific community, it was comparable to rediscovering the coelacanth, the prehistoric fish thought extinct for 65 million years until it was found alive in 1938. For the general public, it was a reminder that nature still holds incredible secrets. Living fossils, a bridge between eras. The long-beaked echidna is called a living fossil, a term used for species that have changed little over millions of years and remain as witnesses of past ages. Other famous examples include the coelacanth, the prehistoric fish, the tuatara, a reptile from New Zealand, a relative of dinosaurs, the nautilus, a spiral-shelled mollusk that looks like it stepped straight out of the fossil record. These beings remind us that evolution is not just a race toward the most advanced, but also a balance. If a life form form works well, it can persist across eras almost unchanged. Culture, myth, and fascination. In local communities of Indonesia and Papua, the echidna has always been part of traditional stories. Though rarely seen, its presence was mentioned in legends as a mysterious animal, guardian of the forests. For some groups, it symbolized resilience. For others, patience, reflecting its slow and meticulous lifestyle. In Australia, where short-beaked echidnas live, Aboriginal peoples also incorporated the animal into their myths. Often it was seen as a creature that combined elements of different worlds. Part mammal, part reptile, part bird. This hybrid nature has always sparked fascination. The echidna seems to defy labels, as if reminding us that nature doesn't follow the rigid categories we impose. The importance of conservation. The rediscovery of the long-beaked echidna is not only a scientific victory, but also an urgent warning. The fact that it still exists means there is hope, but also responsibility. Expanding agriculture, mining, and deforestation remain serious threats. Without preservation efforts, this second chance could turn into tragedy. Conserving the echidna also means protecting the forests that shelter countless other species. It's like saving a central piece of an ecological puzzle. Philosophical reflections. What does rediscovery mean? The return of the long-beaked echidna to the scientific world forces us to reflect. How many species do we assume extinct, but that may still be hiding in remote corners of the planet? The fact that such a rare animal survived, silent and invisible, reminds us of the humility we must have before nature. Our knowledge is vast, but not absolute. There is always room for the unexpected. This rediscovery also inspires hope in times of environmental crisis. If the echidna endured, maybe other creatures are enduring as well. Maybe we can still save more than we imagine. Conclusion, a symbol of hope. The long-beaked echidna is more than a rare animal. Number 5, the golden lion tamarin. The living treasure of the Atlantic forest. When we talk about iconic animals of Brazil, it's impossible not to think of the golden lion tamarin, Leontopithecus roselia. Small in size, but immense in symbolism, it has become an emblem of the fight for nature conservation. Its shimmering coat, a brilliant golden hue that shines under sunlight, is so striking it seems made of golden threads. But the true treasure lies in its story, a journey of near extinction, resilience, and recovery. This is a tale of how humanity almost lost a unique biological jewel, and how, through collective effort and dedication, managed to bring a species back to life. The golden lion tamarin is not just a Brazilian primate, it is a global symbol of hope. Appearance: the little king of the forest. The name golden lion tamarin could not be more fitting. Although it weighs only between 500 and 800 grams and measures about 30 cm in body length, with a tail that can reach 40 cm, its appearance resembles that of a miniature lion. Fur, long, silky, and golden, forming a mane that frames its face. Unlike the African lion's mane, this one does not serve a defensive purpose, but instead acts as an impressive visual mark, making it unique. Face, dark, almost black, contrasting with the shining fur. Tail, long, non-prehensile, used for balance during agile movements among branches. Hands and feet have claws instead of flat nails, a characteristic of the callitrichid family to which it belongs, aiding in digging into tree trunks and vertical locomotion. Eyes, lively, curious, always alert, reflecting an intelligent and social animal. Natural habitat, the jewel of the Atlantic forest. The golden lion tamarin is endemic to Brazil, restricted to the Atlantic forest, mainly in the state of Rio de Janeiro. The Atlantic forest is one of the most biodiverse biomes in the world, but also one of the most devastated. Only about 12% of its original cover remains. These primates inhabit lowland forest areas, usually near rivers with dense vegetation. Their territory can range from 40 to 100 hectares depending on resource availability. The habitat plays a crucial role in their survival. They rely on hollow trees for resting and protection, as well as a great diversity of plants that provide fruits, insects, and small animals for their diet. Behavior and social life: golden lion tamarins are extremely social. They live in family groups of up to 10 individuals, usually composed of a breeding pair and their offspring. This social structure strengthens bonds and increases the survival chances of the young. Communication: they use varied vocalizations, from short calls to alarm cries. They also communicate through facial expressions and scent marking. Reproduction: the female usually gives birth to twins, which is unusual among small primates. The male plays an active role control and care, carrying the babies and handing them to the mother only at feeding time. Diet: opportunistic omnivores. They eat fruits, flowers, nectar, insects, small vertebrates, and even amphibians. Their long tongue helps them reach nectar inside flowers, making them resemble a hummingbird in primate form. Activity: diurnal. They spend the day moving among branches in search of food and rest. At night, they sleep inside tree hollows, a behavior that protects them from predators. Near extinction: the alarm of the 1970s. In the 1970s, the scientific world was shocked by a terrible statistic. Only about 200 golden lion tamarins remained in the wild. The main cause was clear: deforestation of the Atlantic forest for agricultural, livestock, and urban expansion. Additionally, forest fragmentation isolated the remaining groups in small forest patches, reducing genetic diversity and increasing disease risks. The illegal wildlife trade also contributed to the decline. The situation was so critical that many believed the golden lion tamarin would be extinct within a few decades. But it was at that moment that one of the most inspiring conservation campaigns in history began. The first conservation programs faced with the imminent threat, Brazilian and international researchers joined forces. The Asociação Mico Leão Dourado, AMLD, Golden Lion Tamarin Association, was born, becoming the leading force in the species protection. Number 6. The Yangtze giant softshell turtle. Here's another critically endangered species for you to learn about. But tragically, this is a creature whose population is so low that no one can honestly say whether it will survive or not. I'm talking about the Yangtze giant softshell turtle, and according to official records, in the last count there were only 4 of these turtles left in the entire world. That's nothing. The good news is that if reproduction occurs, a single giant softshell turtle can lay up to 100 eggs. But the problem is that the female attempted to breed with other males with certain preservation efforts and care, and nothing happened. Could this change in the future? Absolutely. But the fact that the number is still 4 is quite bad, and if this female dies and only males remain, unless a miracle occurs, the species will go extinct. Number 7. The pygmy. Three-toed sloths are really slow. All sloths have a languid nature and have lived that way for a long time. However, this can harm them in the long run, as is the case with the pygmy three-toed sloth. Not only is it a rare sloth, but it is also critically endangered. Ongoing destruction and fragmentation of its habitat, hunting for food, the presence of wildcats, and the lack of proper legal protection for pygmy sloths and their habitats have caused a sharp population decline. Unlike many other animals on this list, the fight to keep them alive has not been very productive. There were even people in places like the United States trying to buy and sell these animals despite their low population numbers just because they wanted to display them. In the end, that's just greed. Number 8. The great argus. The animal known as the great argus isn't some kind of mythical creature or colossal beast. It's actually a pheasant. You can find it in Borneo if you're lucky. They're quite difficult to spot, and even those who dedicate themselves to finding them haven't had much luck. One person even said that despite all their efforts, they saw one in the wild only once. As you can see in this video, the great argus has a special courtship ritual that amazed those who filmed it. It doesn't perform this ritual very often, which makes the fact that we managed to capture it on video even more impressive. All the more reason to keep this pheasant alive. Maybe its next courtship ritual will involve magic and not a disappearing act. Number 9. The Sumatran orangutan. It might seem obvious that habitat destruction has led many animal species to nearly lose their entire populations, but it's true. Animals like these aren't like humans who can move anywhere. They establish a balance in their environment, and when that balance is threatened, they suffer. The Sumatran orangutan is another example of this. The forests of Sumatra have been severely destroyed over the years due to human expansion, and these orangutans have had to try to survive with less and less space to live. However, the good news is that we know they're still out there, and they've even been caught on camera. On top of that, people have been replanting their forests to try to restore some of the life they once had. There are even protectors who help care for these animals. Number 10. The singing dogs. You might find it strange that a dog species is near extinction, considering how domesticated they are, but there are many species of wild dogs in the world that neither want nor need humans. The rare singing dogs are one of these species that must remain wild. This dog species was so rare that it took a global pandemic to bring them back into visibility. I'm not kidding. In 2020, they were sighted in a national park where they had been for decades but hadn't been seen in half a century. Think about it. They were there the whole time but had never been spotted because they didn't want to be found. Habitat destruction led to a drastic decline in their population, but conservation efforts, including the park I mentioned, give hope for the future, especially now that they've been sighted in the wild again. Number 11, the red panda. Pandas as a whole are creatures that many people know and protect at all costs, even being the symbol animal of the WWF. But most people forget there's more than one type of panda that needs protection, and the red panda is another that needs our help. Red pandas were so rare at one point that in 2014 the first footage of the creature was captured in Myanmar, but that only happened because its habitat had been destroyed. They tend to live in areas like China and the Himalayas and aren't really the largest animals around, unlike the other pandas you may be used to seeing. The good news is that, thanks to multiple conservation efforts in the region where they're protected by all kinds of laws, the species is now classified as only endangered. However, it's a very delicate situation, and we can't let our guard down. No one wants to hear that any kind of panda is on the brink of extinction, right? Number 12, the angel shark. You might not have expected to see a shark on this list, but sharks need to be protected in both natural and artificial ways. That doesn't mean they're immune to the dangers of extinction, and the angel shark is one example of this. Currently, angel shark populations can be found mainly off the coast of Great Britain, where major preservation efforts are underway to reintroduce the animals to the world. A few years ago, a photographer managed to capture a stunning video of an angel shark swimming, and it's an impressive sight, especially because this creature doesn't look like the typical shark you'd expect to see in oceans and seas. The people of Wales have led the way in saving the angel shark species and even created a law that makes it illegal to hunt or harm these sharks in any way. Angel sharks are known for being both flat and small, which means they pose no threat to humans and therefore aren't a danger that needs to be eliminated. Hopefully, people will continue working together not only to keep them alive, but also to increase their numbers in the future. Number 13, the Irrawaddy dolphin. Irrawaddy dolphins are freshwater dolphins found in 3 specific areas of Southeast Asia. While this may sound interesting, it also means that you could go to a river and encounter an unusual visitor right in your boat. This limited distribution is why their population is below 100 individuals. One of the most well-known habitats is the Mekong River, home to more than 1,000 species of animals. You can imagine why people are trying to save this dolphin, as it plays a crucial role in the river's ecosystem. Additionally, the dolphin is sacred to local communities, giving even more reason to protect it. Why are the population numbers so low? Due to the size and diversity of species in the river, Irrawaddy dolphins are frequently caught in fishermen's nets. Yes, sometimes accidentally, but this doesn't prevent large numbers from dying. Fortunately, the World Wildlife Federation and other organizations have joined forces to try to save the dolphin and work with local communities to ensure such incidents do not continue. Hopefully, they are making good progress. Number 14, the kakapo. Now let's go to a country known for its unique wildlife, New Zealand. Here we present a bird that many of you may not know well, the kakapo. What makes this bird so unique? It is known as the owl parrot due to its facial appearance and the small whisker-like feathers around its face, which you can clearly see. Additionally, like an owl, this bird is primarily nocturnal. This is why kakapo translates in the Maori language as night parrot. The tragedy of this bird is that, although it is found in New Zealand, it used to be spread across all nearby islands. However, it became extinct on those islands and was relocated to 3 islands within the country. Fortunately, those who helped relocate the birds have monitored them and attempted to increase their population, but progress has been slow. A count some time ago placed their numbers at only 125 individuals. Not many for a bird population, but with dedicated effort, this could change. Number 15, the axolotl. one of the rarest and most unique creatures in the world. The axolotl is a giant salamander discovered in Mexico. The species was named after one of the Aztec gods. The axolotl has some divine abilities, including the capacity to regenerate almost any lost limb. Wild axolotls live exclusively in the swamp remnants of lakes and the canals leading to the southern edge of Mexico City. However, this hasn't stopped them from appearing in other parts of the world, as they are apparently excellent pets that are easy to care for. Due to their aquatic life, they are exposed to pollutants that have drastically reduced their population. In 1998, the species had about 6,000 individuals per square kilometer, but by 2010 this had dropped to just 35 per kilometer tails. This represents a major decline and is why they are listed as critically endangered. Hopefully they will not go extinct, as we could truly lose a unique creature if that happens. Number 16, the okapi. Now we return to Africa for the story of a creature that was once considered a myth until it was definitively proven to exist. The okapi. A look at the okapi reveals just how special it is and why you don't see it in nature as often as you might expect. If an animal looked like this all the time in the wild, it would attract considerable attention. Interestingly, this mammal seems aware of its unique appearance, which is why it hides for long periods. The first observation outside its native population in Africa didn't occur until the late 1800s and wasn't officially recognized until 1901. If you're wondering what it is, the okapi is technically a member of the giraffe family, not a zebra, although its striped hind legs can be confusing. Why the stripes? They apparently help camouflage the animal in its surroundings and also serve as easy identifiers for other okapis. The species is so unique and rare that there is an organization dedicated to keeping it alive, and we applaud their work. Number 17, the vaquita. So far, we've talked about terrestrial creatures in danger, but many aquatic creatures are also at risk. You could argue that none is more threatened than the vaquita. What is a vaquita? You've probably never heard of it. It is the smallest cetacean in the world and the rarest marine animal. Want to guess how many remain? As of 2023, according to the World Wildlife Fund, WWF, there are only 10 vaquitas left in the world. This isn't just near extinction. It's at a level where a single bad day could wipe out the entire population. Another tragic aspect is that the species was only discovered in 1958, which is relatively recent in scientific terms. Since then, the population has plummeted. Why? Illegal fishing. Vaquitas live near Mexico's Baja California, and due to their size, are repeatedly caught in fishing nets and killed. They aren't afraid to approach the coast, making them even more vulnerable to accidental or deliberate capture. They are so rare that WWF only managed to capture an official photo of one in the wild in 2003, and even then, it was just a blurry shot of its head. Putting jokes aside, the creature is on the brink of annihilation, and humanity has only itself to blame. Given the extremely low population, it would take a miracle or a concentrated conservation effort to recover them. Number 18, the Amur leopard. You might think that because of their global popularity, big cats would be immune to rarity, but that's not true. Not all big cats live in safe areas where they can survive without fear of being hunted. The Amur leopard is a prime example. While most leopards are found in Africa, this one lives in Russia. For some reason, it adapted to the cold climate and carved out a life there. But it remains rare. Why? Like rhinoceroses, the Amur leopard is constantly hunted for its beautiful fur, which is highly valued. Russia's cold climate also makes fur desirable for warmth. Another issue is that its habitat is often surrounded by villages and towns, making the leopards easy targets. Corruption has also played a role, as leopards were sometimes killed even in reserves meant to protect them. To give you an idea of their value, a single Amur leopard pelt can sell for up to $11,000 in some Russian villages. Other animals in their habitat are also hunted, creating a cruel cycle. The Amur leopard is not just an interesting big cat, it is a rare subspecies that defies logic. Losing it just because people desire its fur would be a true tragedy. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed our content, please subscribe to our channel and leave a like. Also, check out other interesting videos appearing on your screen right now, and I'll see you in the next video. See you next time.